So much more red Indian there, which is awesome. Well, native.
Welcome, everybody. This is Internet Marketing Unleashed. I'm your host, Scott Paton, the Dean of Blogonomics and Podology. And I'm really excited to have everybody with us. I am in beautiful Medellin, Colombia. We are locked down. There's nothing to do but create podcasts, write blogs, write sales copy, do the marketing, because even though the economy has completely collapsed, 22 million Americans are on unemployment. If the 40-year plan was not dead 40 years ago, it is dead today. And you need to, do the work that you love, absolutely. And you need to have a plan B and a side hustle, as they call it. I call it the laptop lifestyle, to be able to travel around, do what I want, whenever I want, and actually, not starve, because I have businesses that create income. And one of the things that got me into what I'm doing now, although I don't talk about it much, and I don't do, it's not that I don't do it, I use this skill in a different way than the people that are professional at it. And it's really something that without it, I don't think I would be anywhere near as successful as I am. And that skill is copywriting, understanding how to write in a way that influences people, that moves people, that gets them on your side, gets them to buy, all these sort of things. And that is a really, really important skill. So if you're thinking about, okay, I was a clerk at a grocery store. The grocery store is the grocery store is open. I'm a clerk at a jewelry store, and the jewelry store is closed, may never open up. And even if they do open up, they may not take me back. And so what sort of skills should I start if I want to have my own home-based business? Then that would be the one that I would say is really, really valuable, because there's always a huge need for copywriting. And my guest today, one of the reasons I'm so excited, is one of the world's best copywriters. He's absolutely phenomenal. He is called the Alchemist of Persuasion, the story seller, and most notably the Michelangelo of offer creation. So if that doesn't tell you that he is an awesome copywriter, I don't know what is. He was born in Tanzania. He has lived most of his life in England. He's presently in London, England, like me, shut in, yep. Trying to not get this COVID thing. And I'm really, really excited to be able to kind of pick his mind around copywriting and persuasion and that sort of thing. And if you're watching us now, we are live on YouTube. We are live on Facebook. You can put a comment in, and I will get the comment and ask the question. So this is an interactive episode, and we want to do that now. We want everyone to kind of join us. So if you share this, that would be awesome. Like, subscribe, all those sort of things. We're going to be doing the show on an ongoing basis, a lot more regularly than I have in the past. So with that, our guest has been writing sales copy professionally since he turned 18, which was around 2007. So that's over a decade of doing that. And he has broken countless records and developed an infamous reputation for effectiveness for his copy. So with that, I'd like everybody to, hit the likes and everything else, and welcome Adil Amarsi. Welcome.
Hey guys.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How you doing, Scott?
Excellent. So everyone always wants to know the beginning, right? Like, one of the things I always tell everybody is the story is never straight up. It's always, we have the valleys, we have the highs, and no one wants to go watch a movie where someone gets born, has a wonderful childhood, gets a good job, gets a wonderful wife, has a bunch of kids, and dies rocking on his couch, or rocking on the porch, I mean. So tell us a little bit about how you got into copywriting, because that's an interesting story.
I had a very interesting run into how I got into copy, because it wasn't until I got to that age where basically, I think I can hear myself. Weird. Anyway, that could be me. But anyway, so it got to a really strange area of my life where I started to, I was about 5 years old. We'd moved to the UK. I think there's a slight typo on the website, but it's Adil, so ADIL, Amarsi.com. You guys can go check it out. Yay. Sorry, Scott. Well, it's just that. Anyway, so my origin story is kind of fun because my parents basically moved us over here when I was 4 years old. So 4 years old, thank you very much, living in a new country, barely speaking the language. I spoke other languages when I was younger, and I started to learn English. So over the course of the years, I ended up developing an English skill, having all the stuff. But the real truth was when I was 5 till 7 years old, looking back at it, this is where the truth of my development began. At 5 years old, my dad was paralyzed from the waist down for 2 years. I think it was a herniated disc. I don't really remember recalling, and he won't ever talk about it, so I can't really ask him. But he had a herniated disc, as far as I remember, because he was his lower half wasn't working as well, so he had to use canes and crutches to get around. During that time, I have an older sister, so we would watch cartoons. It was the 90s, so you either watch Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network, and I loved Cartoon Network. Clearly, I mean, I'm a giant child. I have Star Wars like over there behind me, always will be. Because of that, basically, my sister basically used to beat me up to watch TV because she was older than me. So she'd beat me up to watch Nickelodeon, and I'd be like, all right, fine. What's the system to work around with dad? So my dad used to love a trivia show called 15 to 1. He loved watching another show called Countdown, which is about numbers and words. And the last one was he used to love watching Billy Mays. Like my dad was obsessed with watching Billy Mays 2 hours a day for 6 days a week, 2 hours, like for 2 years while he was like in the state. So I figured if I watched whatever my dad was watching, I could basically, when he gets up to move at 6 o'clock, I can change the channel and no one beat me up because I put in the work. So I'm like, all right, cool. Sit in time, invest, so to say, you get a reward. Superb. This goes on for about 2 years, and then fast forward to me at 8 years old. My mother tells me I'm a little bit of a manipulator. Kids, if you have them, if you're a parent, don't let your kids do this. Don't let them know that when you're on the phone, you don't like them talking to you, because what they'll do is they'll ask permission for things when you're on the phone to annoy you, so they could get a yes. That's basically what it is. And I did that. So my mother called me a little manipulator, and I laughed because I thought it was funny because I didn't know what the word meant. And then at school, my parents basically got pulled in when I was 12 years old. My dad could walk again. He had a small business. He was told by my teacher, hey, your son's smart. He's bright, but there's a problem with him. He writes very slowly. Like when he writes perfectionist. Like he's a perfectionist. So if I put a full stop in the wrong place, or if I put a exclamation mark and it just slightly was off, or I misspelled a word or whatever it was, it could be the last thing on that page. I will tear the page out and I'll start again. I wouldn't even correct. I'd just start again. So it was pretty bad. So my parents basically got told, look, if he goes to secondary school, which I think is middle school for you guys, I was 12, 13 for the States. I got told basically that I would fail because I write too slowly. So my dad basically made me start writing. Now, during this time period, my parents shortly after separated. And for about 2 years, my school commute went from an hour, each way. Sorry, it went from a 30-minute walk to an hour each way. And I was a bit of a lonely kid, so I basically spent most of my time in my head in my notepad writing. I had a couple of friends, but like mostly wrote. So I got into writing hip hop music, got into writing poetry. I used to write stories for my dad's company all the time. I'd done this for the year beforehand and just kept adding to it. So I had this big note file. I just like this notepad I used to give to him every single week. Fast forward to me at 18 years old. I leave college. I leave school at 17 because I failed one of my final exams and I didn't want to resit it, so I left. I had like good enough grades to go. And then when I was 17, I started working. Well, 17, 18, I was working in a retail environment with one of my favorite passions, which at the time was video gaming. Absolutely loved video gaming. So I worked in a game store. And then shortly after that, I was really good at selling always. And then shortly after, I got recruited into network marketing by a friend of mine. Unfortunately, that relationship did go a little bit sour. It's reconciled now, but at the time it was a little bit sour. And then finally, in that time period, I remember going to a seminar and asking some marketers how I could get better, because I got given green room duty, not green screen, green room duty. And one of them said to me, what are you good at? And I said, I'm terrible at traffic. They're like, yeah, but what are you good at? I was like, I guess I had 10 people read my blog post for this network marketing thing I was in. And they're like, and I was like, I got 7 of them to give me money. I know it's not great numbers, but because in my head, 7 out of 10 was terrible. It should be 10 out of 10 because I was raised on excellence. So I went ahead and I was like, oh no, I shouldn't get 10. They're like, are you an idiot? 7 out of 10 is incredible. keep going. You're a copywriter. It's just a natural thing you do. And then I went home, told my dad. My dad pulled out this black file from the attic, showed it to me. He went through the first couple of pages and he said, just read them. I read the first couple. He goes, does it feel familiar? I was like, yeah. He goes, have you noticed? I was like, no. He goes, these are your stories. The stories used to bring to me. We turned them into sales pieces. We put a headline, call to action, mailed them out. And that's how we kept things going until we sold everything. So like, oh my God, that's pretty cool. I wanted to ask what my cut was, but I didn't want to get an ass whooping.
That is really cool. So you were a copywriter before you even knew you were a copywriter.
Massively. And like my first year in the industry was kind of strange because I have dyslexia and ADD. And at the time I was undiagnosed. So it was like at the time we didn't know why I couldn't spell properly, like you're and you're, there, and there. I would send these in with mistakes to my clients. My clients were, I'm very thankful for my clients that first year. They were really good at telling me where I was going right and wrong. But by the end of the first year, I think I did like $4 or $5 million for my clients in sales from my copy in year one. So that's just basically
they don't mind if they have to edit your copy a little bit to correct some grammar mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, if you're getting if at the time, I really wish I had the speed I used to have when I was younger. I used to be able to crank out a full funnel in the space, like emails, ads, copy, everything, upsells, downsells, in about 12 to 14 hours to be able to sit down and just go. Today, it's like a 6 to 8 week process for me to sit down and go because like my brain's like, we have so much more research, so much more stuff, find the right angle, don't go for the surface win.
Yeah.
So you learn. The more you learn, the better you become. Yeah.
So your dad showed you what you had written as growing up and how he had used it.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
Yeah. So I basically turned around, went online, and I was a member of the prestigious Warrior Forum back in the day. Not the new one right now, which I'm not shitting on, but like, excuse my language. I'm not crapping on it. But like the Warrior Forum back in the day was the place to be. It was the shit. It was like you went in there, you could ask a question brand new, and you get like some of the best internet marketers in history show up on there and answer your question. For the love of goodness, I met Dean Jackson on there. Do you know how crazy that is? I was 18. I had no idea who Dean Jackson was. I found out when I was 21. And I was like, oh, me and this motherfucker are friends. What? Sorry, I keep swearing. I should really stop. But that was the crazy thing. Sorry, you're muted. I can't hear you for some reason.
I keep thinking I'm the reason for the echo, so I mute myself. Tell everybody who Dean is for those that don't know.
Who?
Dean Jackson.
Oh, Dean Jackson. Okay, so Dean Jackson is the guy that is infamously known for the 9-word email, but more importantly, he's kind of been, I think it's still official that he's the dude that created the squeeze page. Like the guy that put up this first ever squeeze page was Dean Jackson, or at least he advised Eben Pagan to do it, one of the two. But Dean is old school. Like think him and Joe Polish are friends. So Joe Polish is $25,000 a year Genius Network. Yeah, that is him and Dean's kind of thing. They built out initially. They've been friends for years. Dean is incredible, and so is his at the time his partner was Sunny. She's brilliant too. But yeah, like having guys like you had Frank Kern on that forum list.
Right. You
had Dean Jackson, you had Kevin Rogers, you had I think John Carlton was on it. You were on it, I think, at one point as well. So was I. But you remember what it was like back in the day. You can go on there, and it was incredible. Like, it was basically in my opinion, it was Athens. That was our Athens. Mm-hmm. That's where you'd go in and have high-minded debate and philosophy about what's working, and you can get your stuff torn apart. And it was like a free forum that you could run with. It was a true essence of what it was. And then, of course, the WSOs kind of happened. And I will put my hands up. I'm in part to play with that because I wrote quite a lot of WSOs for people and started to get really good conversions for them. I broke one of their records. I think the front end, before my record was broken, I held the record for highest front end conversion of 43%.
Oh, nice.
Someone broke my record like years later with Video Maker FX on JVZoo, which really, kudos to that guy. I hold the record at WSOs as far as I'm aware for the time at one point, but this guy killed it on JVZoo.
Nice. So tell us a little bit about maybe one of your favorite copywriting projects.
Oh, wow. Okay. Are we going favorite in terms of what really stirred me up, or favorite as in impact? Because there's a couple of those.
I think what really stirred you up, like what'd you get passionate about?
Oh man, see, I've had the good pleasure of writing for 400 plus markets, 13,500 marketing campaigns. So I've been in most places. My personal favorite that really comes to mind, though, has to be the first time I wrote for a big internet marketing launch. Unfortunately, I still can't speak about who it is because the NDA extends for a long time and the company's still functional and blah blah blah. But I came in to do some copy work for them. They snuck me in, basically. The nice way of putting it is the reason I can't talk about it is because officially I didn't work on the letter. I wasn't even part of it. I didn't even see it. That's the official story. The unofficial story is their copywriter ran into a bit of a snag and they were friends of mine. So I decided to call them and be like, hey, is there anything I can help you with? And their response was, I really need an extra set of eyes on this thing. So they sent it to me and I said, how long have I got? They're like, oh, just, do what you can when you can. And this is when I was still writing very quickly. I knocked that thing out in like 2 days. I rewrote the ad and sent it back to them. I said, hey, let me know how this runs. Because at the time, all I wanted to know was, will this succeed? Because I was still figuring out my style of writing. And that was one of my more passion projects we did was it was a digital marketing product around SEO at the time, specifically the Google sniper method in a reinvented way that actually converted better. And it went really well. Like it was an SEO product, did really, really well. But that was one of my fond memories because it was one of the first times that like what I did made money that way. Another fond memory for me, like one of my favorite ones I liked working on. Actually, that's a lie. I loathed working on this letter, like loathed it with a passion. But when we got the results, I wasn't mad anymore. Like getting to the result, pain in the ass. Getting the result, totally worth it. And that was a product in the real estate market over in the UK. It was a £15,000 a year course. What you do is you go to the train you up and help you buy property. It's 15 grand to that high end membership. We did a mailer for that. The reason it was hell on earth is because I was doing door-to-door sales on 100% commission at the time. And finally, I remember getting my first big break as a writer. I was 18, 19 years old. The reason it was hell on earth to write was because it was for a market that I was not familiar with, and I was a broke kid living in a really rough neighborhood that had no idea how to get himself back out. And I was doing door-to-door sales. I was like zeroing out on doors. My head was like a cluster place of terribleness. So there was a lot of crying internally of days where I didn't want to do work. I didn't want to do like research, whatever it was. But when I put in the work, I did all the research. I got all the pieces together. I toughed it out because I did not want. At the time, it was a lot of money for me. It was 3.5 grand plus 3% on the back end of the first week. So we end up doing this launch, and if you guys can see over my right shoulder, you guys should be able to see my cat. He is there. He's a giant douche nozzle. He knows he's on camera, so enough about that. But anyway, so I ended up like getting through this whole point, and then I end up writing this letter and sending it in. I have never been more nervous in my entire life. I remember I was sweating bullets. I had anxiety attacks. I couldn't sleep at one point. And then I remember they mailed it out. They didn't even tell me about it. They didn't tell me mailed it out. I was, because I was doing door-to-door sales at the time. I got a call from the bank while I'm in the field. I think it's a debtor because I owed money to the bank. Hey, what's up? It's like, you owe us this much. Fine, I'll get that money to you by the end of the week. Let me just get a couple of sales today. Great, cool, no worries. Hang up. Get another call from the bank at the same time while they put I answer some questions. They put me on hold. At the same time, my phone starts to vibrate. So I check my phone, and it's an incoming call from my client. So I decline, text my client, going, "Hey, I'm on the phone with the bank. Is everything okay?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he just quickly texts me out, going, "Yeah, if they ask you for this company name that has put money into your account, say yes. We don't want you to get caught on a fraudulent charge." I was like, "Why would I be on a fraud?" They're like, "Just text me after you're off. Just give me a call after you're done off the phone." So I pick back up. I'm like, "Hey, off hold. What's going on?" They're like, "We just need to verify. Have you ever worked for this company?" "Yes." "What do you do?" "Well, I work door to door, but I'm a freelance copywriter. What do I do?" And like, "Yeah, we're just letting you know that your new account balance." I was like, "What's my new account balance?" Thinking, oh, they mailed the letter. They made some money. They made £3.6 million in the first 7 days. And I got an £80,000, so 150,000 US dollars payment through to my bank account that very day.
That has to be a great feeling.
It was. What sucks though is how quickly I pissed that money away. I wish I had fun stories that, it was on hookers and blow and drugs and blah and cars. No, I paid off so many people's debts that were in my wallet. I just paid off their debts. I was like, you're a good person. Here's some money. Because at the time, I had no concept of how to handle money.
Right.
Dumb 18-year-old me, 19-year-old me, really.
Yeah, it's funny how when we're young and the money comes easily, it's like it'll never stop, and of course it always stops, and you learn the lesson about how to look after your money, or you don't. And It's always better when you learn the lesson.
Oh yeah, it'll take a couple of tries at times. If you're lucky enough, you get away once. But if it takes a couple of tries, don't be too annoyed about it. It'll be fine.
Right. So tell us a little bit more about story-based advertising, being the story seller. How does that work?
Okay, so the story seller is just a fun little nickname that I absolutely love. Just like many of my nicknames, they were given to me, not so much I went ahead and created them. I wish I was that smart to create them, but I wasn't. This is the same man who once took him 11 years to realize that his name had 3 initials. So my first, middle, and surname all start with A. And I stupidly only realized that AAA package could be used as a copywriting hook. So nicknames are always fun. But story-based advertising is kind of it's not a new medium, but it's a medium that's changing. I'll tell you what I mean. So, Scott, can I just get you back on for a second? Because you have been around for a while, and I'd love for people to get back and forth with me. So, do you remember back in the day, direct response, old school direct response? What was the motto? It's more what than you. It's more yous than I's, right? It's like 80-20. 80% had to be them, and only 20% of copy could write about you.
You never used I.
Yeah, you try to avoid it as much as possible.
Yeah.
So that's direct response. And direct response is amazing because of 2, 3, 5, 10% conversion rate was fine. But over the last couple of years, ever since I developed the system, we've always knocked it out of the ballpark. It's the reason that my clients on average do $50 million a year collectively because of my work, which is brilliant. But here's the thing. You've got that old school direct response selling. Then you had brand advertising. And brand advertising for the last 30 odd years was terrible. Let's be honest. It was the worst. You had celebrity endorsements. And for those that don't know what brand advertising is, imagine you're watching. Do you remember McDonald's going, ba, 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 I'm loving it. Yeah, that's right. Brand. That's brand. It's just brand awareness. And they're hoping through brand awareness you'll want to buy, which they're not wrong about, because the more a brand is exposed, the more you're associated to them. But if you use direct response, you shortcut that transaction. The only thing is it's a single time transaction. That lifetime loyalty, that brand doesn't get built in the same way. Nike did a great job of doing this, by the way. For the people that don't know, Nike actually built their initial company off direct response. But Scott, I wanted to ask you, do you remember what the biggest problem with the direct response and the brand guys were? Do you remember the biggest reasons why they never got on?
Well, one wanted results, and the other one was afraid that if they found out what the results were, they wouldn't get hired.
Exactly. And that's why direct responses get, I'm not kidding. Direct response people always wanted to know what the results were. So story-based advertising was combining the story element of the brand, meaning, how do I go ahead and create a celebrity-based brand while ultimately telling people how and why they should buy something, including why they should buy from me. Because that was always the thing in direct response that used to get me. The introduction story of who you were and how you got to a discovery was always shorthanded. It had to dear friend, my name's Adil Amarsi. Let me tell you about my product. There was no in between you and them. There was let me tell you who I am, why you should listen to me. Here's all my credentials. Let me go work on this. There was none of that. So when I started switching out to this idea of story selling, it was very unconscious. It was more or less I started to look at and go, okay, the old school way of writing direct response sales letters for me was headline, subheadline, and then dear friend. And I was like, why is there so little in the opening paragraph? So I started questioning things. As the older I got, the more I started to realize around 25, 26 years old, 24, 25 years old, I started to realize I was writing in a much more different manner. And so story-based advertising is essentially, it's something like a Squatty Potty and Poo-Pourri and the stuff that Harmon Brothers do. And the reason that you have that set up the way that you do, pardon me one moment, just get my glass of water or bottle of water. The reason that you have it set up in a way like the Harmon Brothers, with story-based selling or story-based advertising, you're telling a legitimate tale to get people on board to follow you. Because in today's world, more than ever, people crave trust. They want to know you, they want to like you, they want to trust you. They want to know the good, they want to know the bad, they want to know the authentic, they want to know the inauthentic, they want to know your mistakes, they want to know every single detail about you. And because of that, that's your advantage. Everyone here has a story to tell. Why are you an SEO? Like, I remember when I was teaching SEO years ago, I said, what I'm teaching is no different. And the guy looked at me and went, yeah, but you're teaching it. You've got your own experiences. You've gone through your own stuff. People resonate with you more for one reason than another person. I was like, oh. And the same thing goes true here. Your story is unique to you. You might not feel unique to you, but there are experiences that you had that make them unique to you. And that's essentially what my job is to find your unique story and find out why you do what you do, what your point of no returns were, what your milestones throughout your journey were, and then ultimately turn it into a story that sells your product effectively. So that's basically what it is. Story-based advertising is telling your story in a way that gets people to say yes.
And that is a really important skill, because most people, like you said, they discount their story. They don't think about what is my story. They don't take the time to figure out what their story is, because they're too busy living it usually.
Yep.
And it becomes really powerful. And as a podcaster and someone who teaches people podcasting, I get kind of that same objection as well. I don't have anything interesting to say. And I said, well, of course you have lots of interesting things to say. And the people that are going to want to listen is your tribe that you're developing. And it's different than, but somebody else is already talking about whatever the topic is. Yeah, but their tribe is their tribe, and the other people that don't like them are looking for somebody else that they can follow or listen or learn from, and that's you. And it's a really an important part of the whole process, I think.
I would agree. I agree entirely. That is one of the key things that people need to look at, is how their stories are so effective. In fact, I know people have built their podcast entirely around just their story.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, Adil, it's been fascinating having you on the show. I really enjoyed it. We're getting kind of to the end of our time. What I'd like to do is ask you to, if someone is an aspiring copywriter, or now that they've heard you and they've heard me and they think, wow, maybe I should look into this copywriting. First of all, what are some places that you would suggest they go to start? And secondly, do you have a tip or an inspirational story that you can share to inspire them to continue on that path?
Okay, there are a bunch of resources, including the one that I'm sponsoring for the show, which is thinklikeacopywriter.com, as well as adilamarsi.com. Obviously, I have my show. We have copyright guests all the time on there. So great resources there. But if you're looking for somewhere right now at this exact moment that isn't to do with me, just like as an unbiased opinion, check out the GaryHalbertletter.com. It is one hell of a newsletter site. It's really old, but all the principles remain today, and they are timeless, so they will work no matter what happens. I know, because we've tested a bunch of this stuff, and it still works perfectly today, as have a lot of other marketers today. I'm sure Scott has as well. So that's one. Two, if you're going to pick up a book, pick up Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. It's one of the best books you can find on human psychology and how people work. In fact, all of Robert Greene's books are brilliant. If you're going to watch one movie that really helps you understand how to sell, how to do everything, and how to tell a good damn story, I would definitely look at Toy Story. But more importantly, there is a breakdown on YouTube on the Toy Story story itself, basically how Toy Story was written, the ideas and processes. That's brilliant, because when you understand how to write stories, it makes them awesome.
I would never have thought that would be the movie that you would tell everybody to watch. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, Toy Story is a perfect movie. So is Godfather, but I don't want to get like The Godfather is a masterpiece, because so fair confession on this. A couple of months ago, I got insanely ripped with a bunch of friends, and we ended up watching The Godfather. Now, here's the thing. I get very introspective depending on what I'm doing. So I got very, very introspective and really watched this movie with fresh eyes for the first time. And I realized some of the cinematic choices, but script choices that really shifted that movie. And the same with
Mm.
Toy Story. Toy Story and The Godfather have like very similar thought patterns and how they're pulled in together, just placed in different areas. So it's a great movie. Two great movies for you guys to go check out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and
Super.
to answer your other question, which is a good story to actually keep them moving down the line. I know we were supposed to cover quite a bit today because there was quite a few things that we need to cover. So I'm going to let you pick which story you want me to tell that
All right.
illustrates one of our points. So give me a point. I'll illustrate it in a story as in why you have to keep going.
So how do you begin?
How do I begin, like writing, or how do I
Yeah.
begin after? Okay. It all comes down to research, honestly. People don't realize how much research I actually do on my clients before I do anything. I sit down, I interview my clients, I get everything I need out of them, and then I start looking at the market, I start looking at their products, I start looking at unique hooks, and I just go through every unique angle I can think of until I get to the point. And then when I've got the idea, it's going to sound really daft. I sit down with a notepad or my iPad and my pencil, and I write down ideas. Angles, hooks, ideas, stories, thought processes, where we can explore, where we can't explore. And then I trust my gut. I pick one and I go, tomorrow morning, if it still feels right, I'll write. If it feels wrong, we'll go back to the drawing board. 8 out of 10 times, I've got the right winner in the first night. You know, the other 2 out of 10 times, it takes me 3 days. So within 72 hours, I have like an idea of how I want to go with this. And then I just sit down and start writing. And my idea is I have a formula that I use for writing, which follows it follows a step-by-step conversation, because that's how I teach. That's the way I write, is I have a step-by-step conversation and I break that down in the letter. So the way that I do it is I figure out exactly how to draw the attention, keep the attention going all the way to the very end by telling a very specific story that leans back to that headline. So I'll give you an example that works perfectly, and that is, so Scott, give me a product, industry, whatever it is. I don't care what it is, just anything.
Metal roofing.
Metal roofing. Okay, so I'm selling metal roofing. What am I selling? Am I just selling the fact that you want to get you to install metal roofing, or what?
Well, it's either a new house and you need a roof, or it's been raining and you're tired of putting pails around the floor.
Okay, cool. So it's roofing stuff. Okay. Do we have a city that I'm based in, or is it just anywhere?
Honolulu, Hawaii.
Okay, you're throwing me a curveball after curveball because I don't really know that much about these places, so I'd go research. But let's
I'll give you a little bit of research.
Go for it.
The salt in the air eats the asphalt like popcorn in a movie theater. The storms, when they come, the winds are so strong and the rain's so strong that they rip off the asphalt. That's the main competitor, obviously. And so let's say a 40-year asphalt guarantee roof will usually last 12 years. Metal roofs last forever. They're made of aluminum and they just don't get eaten by the salt, so it can be.
Yeah, so actually that's great, because now what I can do is, if I was doing the sales letter to this, my headline would literally ring true to that, which would be, the headline to that would be, I'm guessing, are they lower cost or more expensive? I can't remember.
Metal roofing is about 50%. Well, actually, in North America, it would be 50% more expensive, but in Hawaii, it works out to be about the same because they're so light, right?
Okay, so about the same in terms of price. Okay, cool. Yeah, so the
little bit more expensive, but not much.
Okay, not by much, but with what you've got, fair enough. What I would say is, like, discover how for almost the same price as a new roof, you can get one that lasts seemingly forever, is resistant to the salt water, and can withstand hurricanes, especially if you live in Honolulu, Hawaii. ... If you're actually, just finish it down and say ... If you live in Honolulu, Hawaii, then this is a very important message for you and your family, and you need to read every word below. Here's why. The opening paragraph will go into, Honolulu has these incredible storms. In fact, a 40-year guarantee by asphalt, said by our leading competitor, which you know about, starts with A, ends with T, say that a 40-year roof in Hawaii will last 12 years in Honolulu given the current weather conditions. But it doesn't have to be this way. For a fraction, and I mean, I would literally work out the fraction. If it's like 1/10 more, I'm like, for 1/10 more of the price that you would invest in a new roof from the current provider that most Hawaiians have, you can actually withstand higher levels of salt water. You don't have to replace it. You don't have a hole in your roof. You don't have to worry about the storms when they come. And more importantly, it won't take you don't have to worry about replacing it every 12 years.
I forgot to tell you that the metal roof has a lifetime guarantee in Hawaii.
Excellent. So you just say, and on top of that, we have a special lifetime guarantee to throw in. But before we get into that, let me introduce myself. And I'd sign off as the CEO. Like, my name is John Wentworth. And as founder of the Wentworth Roofing Metal Company, it was my grandfather's duty to roof the homes of many places in America. The reason is because metal lasts forever. In fact, many of the metal ones that my grandfather, many of the metal roofs my grandfather fitted still exist today. In fact, you can look up some of the addresses here, bam, bam, whatever it is. But what I'm going to share with you in a moment will actually show you why you want to get a metal roof rather than what you currently have, and how it will last forever. Not only will it last forever, but we will guarantee it forever, which means that if my great-grandchildren get a message from your great-grandchildren with a certificate of receipt, they will be able to get their roof replaced completely for free. So, and then I just go into, it's like, but before I get into that, let me ask you a really daft question. Are you tired of wondering when your roof is going to cave in, wondering if it's going to go moldy, wondering if the salt is going to keep eating it, whether or not the next storm is going to be your last? If you're done worrying about these things and actually want to have complete peace of mind and lower that anxiety, then read every word below, because what I'm going to share with you will show you why metal roofs are not only superior than the current ones that you have, but how they can actually be a benefit and, most importantly, be a cost saver for you for the rest of your life. And here's the reason why. And then I'd go into it, and I should even make the argument of saying, look, the other people, you got to replace that thing every 12 months. If you have to
12 years,
every 12 years, every 12 years. So you have to replace them 3 times in a 40-year lifespan. If your kid is born today and in 40 years they decide to stay in the family home because they've inherited it, they've got a third roof they now need to replace. By the time that child technically will be getting married, for most parents, you will be on your second roof, which means you've now paid double the cost of what you would anyway. We only charge 1/10 more for life.
Yeah.
And then I'd work it out, going like, say a roof is like, I don't know, $10,000. I'm making up numbers. It's 10 grand for the asphalt one. It's 11 for the metal one. I would make the argument that it's not 10,000 versus 11,000. It's 30,000 versus 11,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that's how you show the value. And then you'd ask for the sale. That's the thing. You always want to ask for the sale. You say, here's how we get started. We don't take on anyone straight away. We need to make sure that we can structurally build it on you. So call here, ask for, and I'd always put in a name, ask for Deborah. Deborah will actually set up an appointment with one of our salespeople or with one of our team members. They'll come out, look at your roof. They'll work with you and talk to you. Ask them every question under the book, by the way. I advise you heavily to have about 10 questions ready to go. Because if you don't ask the questions, we don't want to leave you hanging. We already have some questions that you may want to ask ready with our person that comes out. And usually once you make that phone call, someone will be out with you within 7 to 10 days. Bam. That's basically how you're doing. You got a call to action. I'm saying, go here, call now. This is what you need to do next.
So everybody who is watching now or watching in the future, listening in the future, you just got a master class on copywriting. And I really, really strongly advise you to rewind, go through this, take notes, and watch the structure, watch how Adil made the stories and everything else, and then apply it to your business, because that was just brilliant. That was brilliant. And I'm going to be getting my buddy who is a roofer, actually sells metal roofing in Honolulu. This was not a made up thing at all. And,
for him, it was made up for me. I had no idea this guy existed.
Yeah, no, I gave you a real life case study, and you just took 5 minutes and put together a beautiful little bit of advertising piece. So I'm going to make sure I connect. I'm going to get him to watch this, and then I'm going to get him and you connected, because he needs help with the copywriting. And this is the thing, right? Like I have written copy. I can write copy. When I write copy, people love the copy. It gets good results, but it's not my passion, and it's not. I use the copywriting in subject lines for emails that I send out from my clients about their podcast. This is why you should listen, sort of thing. Or I use it when they need the marketing, or they come up with a sales copy that they're going to sell something and it's like terrible, and I'll massage it and help it in that way. But I don't put out the shingle of being a copywriter, because I don't want to sit and write copy.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
This is what I'd say, by the way. I commend you for even studying copy. So guys, even if you don't have the passion to become a copywriter, it's the same thing. I don't want to be a Facebook ad guy. I don't, but I know how to run Facebook ads. I don't want to be a blog. I actually do want to be a blog. That's the thing. Whatever, essentially my whole rule is know enough to become well-versed so you can understand it. It's like going to another land and learning the language. Just learn enough of the language to pass by and look at a letter and be like, this is a good letter. And another piece of advice, don't base the letter's success based on how you feel, base it on what the market tells you. Right. We've had some absolute, like one of the horror stories I'll tell you. It's not a horror story, it's a war story more than anything else. One of my clients and I, we basically went toe to toe over the same letter, where we were like, okay, I think it should run. I don't think it should run. I think it should run. I don't think it should run. So I was on the side of saying it shouldn't run. He was saying it should run. I wasn't happy. He was. We ran with it. And the craziest thing was that letter did well. The next time around, we ran the next letter, the shoe was on the other foot. And I said, run this. He was like, I don't want to run it. He didn't run it. Stupidly, I went to his business partner and told him to run it, which we did. Got into a little bit of trouble there. But all in all, like the letter I wrote out-converted his. And the only reason was because we decided to, he was versed well enough to know what was going out there, but sometimes you just need to know what goes on. Sometimes you got to really test things out. So don't get disheartened if things don't go right away.
And oftentimes as copywriters will say something we didn't think would be very good actually worked out really well. So we try not to judge it. Well, you have to judge it, right? Like this is a certain, it's at a certain level. And then but there comes a point where you have to just run it and see. And oftentimes we have bets.
A lot of the time.
Always done. Awesome. Well,
I've got a standing dinner bet with a friend.
Yeah. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate having you on. I want to have you on again because there's a lot of other stuff that we can talk about. It's been absolutely fascinating. Do you have any last words? Oh, first of all, do you have a copywriting course that you make available for people?
Yes, actually, I have two. There is one called thecopywritersroom.com, which arguably terrible sales letter. Not a fan of it, but I've got to rewrite it soon anyway. That right there will teach you the Rosetta Stone, so to say, of copywriting. It'll show you how I write copy in a formatted structure in my mind and how I can just reel off sales copy on the fly. But more importantly, it will show you all the elements that you need in there. You can actually read them and be like, I can apply these to emails. I can apply these to video sales letters. I don't teach that, but you can apply the same principles. And the second course is my Think Like a Copywriter challenge, found over at thinklikeacopywriter.com. We have a mini series on Facebook about it, but the course itself, we go into over a 2-week period. We build your mailing sequence, your welcome list, basically your welcome mailing sequence that goes out. You can opt in. If you see this live right now, you can opt in when this thing comes out. You'll be able to join the challenge. I think it's $97 that we've decided on. You guys can go ahead and get access to that information. Of course, if you do it live, I'll be there. If you do it afterwards, you'll get me in Q&As. So that's basically it.
Oops.
Cool. No worries. Power podcaster.
I hit the wrong button because I made the Think Like a Copywriter on the fly, and that threw where I thought everything was off.
It's all good. It's all good. But guys, I'd say this much. I'm a super approachable person. So if you're seeing this on social, hit me up more on Instagram, please. Facebook, I've like topped out 500 people, so I can't really get as many messages as I want. Instagram, I'm fairly active on response with, so message me on there. My handle's Adil Amarsi. It's just my name. Like literally everything is just my name. You can find me everywhere.
There it is. Awesome. Thanks, Adil. Really appreciate you, and really glad you came on the show. And
thanks for having me, man.
So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Really appreciate you being a part of this as well. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.